we'd get a second season.
The excuse they always love to use for why they killed off Adam so fast. Written to be just an annoying frat boy based on one of Viv's exes, he's maybe one of the biggest examples of this show and how it has failed potential. I fear this is going to be a reoccurring pattern in any of the upcoming seasons too, where any of the high-level potential characters will be missed entirely. I mentioned it a long time ago that Adam is a character I believe could have been explored much more in depth and in a much more complex way, and while yes, others have talked about this, I think it's about time I take my turn to yap. Let me start off by saying the fact that he's the one who organized the exterminations to begin with makes it so that he's set up to be automatically Charlie's biggest obstacle, with her goal being to show how mankind isn't stuck in their past and that they can be changed for the better. Adam is a human, and he's quite literally the original. He's experienced human nature in its rawest form, witnessed the first murder, been a victim of his wives leaving him for the same man. He's got a pretty negative experience with humans, and we could have explored the way that his experience being the first man shaped his view of the rest of the world, how we understand man's urges to sin and why that makes him not trust those in hell. Honestly, let's look at how he was depicted and we'll go from there. How about that, yeah? Charlie first meets Adam when she wants to pitch the idea of redemption, or pitch the idea of the hotel to Heaven's representation of a holographic live stream of Adam. He claims he didn't want to travel down to hell because of how depressing it is to be down there, but I much prefer the idea of him not wanting to risk facing his son Cain again. He gears the conversation away from the topic of hell to talking more about whatever he got up to that weekend. And just before they run out of time, this is when we get into the Hell is Forever song, which gives us some insight as to how Heaven/Adam's mindset is. Adam argues in his lyrics that humans had their chance to behave better on Earth, but they didn't mend their ways, and this is their punishment permanently. Which, from his perspective, makes sense. And in theory, yes, if you lived a full life and you had the time to change who you are or repent for your sins, you should have taken that. Some people like Val were irredeemable, or they were born into a bad life and they couldn't easily escape from, or they started off good and fell in with a bad crowd. So many different circumstances, and in this place, and it's a bit hard to agree on the rules being black and white. Anyway, though, he laughs as if insulted when Charlie implies that humans do not deserve their deaths. Which, again, having witnessed the first murder of his own son being killed by his brother, is something he probably didn't even think was possible. He's formed a strong view on it. Fair is fair, an eye for an eye. A killer takes an innocent life before their time, ending their potential to be more, and so now they don't even get a chance to be better in hell, since they already decided to take that from someone else on Earth. Charlie is naive in this regard. She was never human, and she's always been an immortal demon princess, so she might not be able to comprehend this ever. He then emphasizes how, to those in heaven destined for something grander and more positive, their view on extermination is that this is their entertainment. Of course, when we get the news that exterminations have been moved up. When next we see him, he's in heaven with Lute sipping on his little drink. When Vaggie and Charlie pass by, he's shocked to see them and confused, ready to deal with this himself. And Lute stops him, reminding Adam that starting a fight here isn't a good idea. He mentions the exterminations, which she reminds him that only exorcists are supposed to know about and that he has to keep it on the down low. Not sure how I feel about him being so loose with his words, but it's whatever. Sarah appears and tells him that he needs to keep this all under control and that she wouldn't have agreed to his exterminations if she knew that this was going to happen. It's worth noting here that Adam does respect her as his higher up, which is funny. He's supposedly misogynistic, but if we're being honest, he doesn't always come across that way. You could argue he calls Lute a pitch here, but that's sort of every character in this show. That word essentially has lost its meaning here. On Vaggy's name, I don't know if that's really great proof for an argument, because, I mean, he named the lute after a wonderful instrument, and we don't really have a point of reference for what the other exorcist names are. And honestly, for all we know, he might have just been drunk and named Vaggy that as a joke, like, you know, Vivsy. Although this entire army is women, which, if you ask me, is extremely progressive of him. Usually misogynists would want their army to be all men because they believe women are weak and incompetent. Adam, however, has full faith in these women to carry out the genocide as grand as one in hell, which could be against some of the strongest people because you have no idea what their strengths are, how many deals they've made, whatever. Even in confronting Vaggy, it's Lute who sees Vaggy ex Charlie as blasphemous. Adam's a lot more hyping her up for getting with Lucifer's daughter and, you know, just kind of like being cool about it. This is followed by the courtroom scene, and Viv really likes courts, doesn't she? He keeps on trying to shut down Charlie's ideas of redemption, making childish insults towards them, and when called out about the rules, he tries to come up with how to get into heaven on the spot. While Charlie and Adam are trying to argue about Angel earning his redemption, Adam keeps pointing out any potential sinful behavior he can. Of course, to prove that the exterminations should continue, but I also like the idea that this is how he's coping. Maybe subconsciously he was having this sort of internal conflict, the same as Sarah, of not wanting to accept that he was wrong, that humans can change. That would have also meant that he needed to change his ways, because he's been getting away with being a jerk for so long, and he just sort of gets the privilege of being in heaven because he was one of the first humans. It would put even more weight on the fact that he kept looking to Sarah for approval outside of the fact that she's his higher up, that he just keeps looking at her like, hey, I'm right here, right? We get into the song where Charlie proves how a soul can change, and Adam drops this huge lore bomb here. Emily learns about the exterminations, something that will create urgency amongst the angels to find out what to do in order to help with redemption. And Adam's also the one here to reveal that Vaggy was an ex-angel to Charlie, which from the framing of the show seems like it should be something huge. It doesn't really affect much, and while I like that Charlie doesn't hold a grudge, I kind of wish this caused more of a conflict or made it difficult for her to accept her. Vaggy did kill thousands of sinners, which according to season 2 is how many total were killed, so it could have been Vaggy was the only one putting in work to kill everyone, which good on her, right? Later, we have Adam hype up his army, and my girl Lou, you know, she's being crazy vicious about how they're gonna kill the sinners. I'll always be so annoyed by how Adam killed Serpentius here too. They try framing it as a joke, but they also want it to be a serious tragedy. And you know, this is where the show's tonal whiplash is genuinely atrocious. And you know what? Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna complain about the final battle here again. Alistair opens the battle with "Best man next to die," which is one of the worst tough lines I've ever heard. It is the most playground insult ever, and I'm not letting go of the fact that Viv was drunk when she wanted Alistair to say "You're sloppy," because his voice actor called her out for being drunk on the job. I just hate how little real thought gets put into this. Actually, like, you know, let me pull up the clip here.
Yeah, you're fucking great. And I realized she had had a couple drinks, and I went, oh, you're a little sloppy right now. And she said that in that moment she felt like totally like not humiliated, but like, oh my god, he clocked me so hard. But she also went, oh, that's a great line. So she had Alistair say, you're
insane, isn't it? The fight barely has any impact, and we're onto his fight with the Morning Stars. He's got this cool little mask glitch, blah blah, Lucifer beats him up, but Charlie wants him to spare him, and then the annoying gag character is the one to finish him off. And I can't believe how genuinely boring this whole scene was. This final battle could have had a lot more to it in general. Adam represents everything challenging Charlie. Vox sort of too, but Adam directly indirectly is the one organizing the exterminations, and he's the first human the creatures she's trying to redeem. And clearly Viv wants to frame him as an irredeemable person who made it to heaven, so, you know, that's a possible thing. We could go with the idea of him being misogynistic too. Let's say that his experience with both human women choosing Lucifer over him made him hate women for whatever reason, even though I think it makes more sense for him to hate men or hate Lucifer for how he's manipulative. That could have possibly given him a way to be redeemed, or something for Charlie to help him overcome. By the end of the series, maybe he could have changed from how he started and realized truly what she meant by changing a soul or redeeming a person. We could get to see him lift the exterminations finally, and that's like the grand climax we've been building up to the entire show. Personally, I like the idea of him being a reality check for the princess more so. She doesn't really understand the weight of sins, and she knows them as concepts on paper. Her essay is just a bad thing that you can say sorry for. Angel experiences it, but she's never seen it or asked about it and tried to understand it properly. Adam in the court scene maybe could have found this out and put on display for her the horrible things that Val subjected her friend to, shattering her naivety, and while processing this, Adam reinforces to the angels this idea that sinners are all like him. This could have been a monumental moment where Charlie has to learn that not all people are worth saving. Maybe briefly she questions if redemption is even worth it anymore, but of course, you know, she would come to the conclusion that yes, there are still hope for others. The Vaggie reveal again, that could have had a shit ton more weight to it that the show just forgets to add. Like, damn, you participate in genocide? No worries. You're just following orders, right? The powers he had during the final battle, too, hardly made sense. He just gets to beam a whole war machine out of existence, but doesn't for everything else. Sure, Lucifer's power being drained from him was painful, and that we saw no indication of that with Adam. He wasn't tired at all, just more a stupid remark about whatever, and we just moved on. When I do my rewrite, I hope to improve on how he could have rivaled Charlie perfectly, but for this, I just wanted to touch on how he seemed so missed to me. Adam could have been the voice that always instilled doubt into, like, you know, the ultimate test of mankind. Whatever though, being Vivzi's ex is great too, I guess. Thanks for listening for another ramble. My question of the video is, how do you think the character of Adam could have been used better? How would you have implemented him, we'll say? Memberships are available for those looking to support my channel. Thank you so much. By the way, as of recording this, we still only have one channel member, Sammy Lawrence. Thank you so much, man. You've been my day one for so long. And we have a Discord, again, if you'd like to join that. Be sure to share, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Thank you so much for listening. Bye. Love you.